too. Yeah.
All right, family. All right, family.
That's
We
what's
have
up.
here my boy. Just introduce yourself. Let motherfuckers know who you is.
Well, you already know this your boy Haywood Haynes from the FOF Squad. Facts over feelings, and your feelings at the devil, so we can get to the facts. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Sitting here chilling with the FOF Squad. It's a Friday night. We just, felt like we just need to get together, politic, go over some things. A lot of hot topics, hot button issues, but we're gonna get to the crux of the matter. We're gonna discuss politics. We're gonna discuss a little bit of everything, but you know how this goes. So yeah, we here. You know.
All right. What I first do want to talk about is politics. A lot of people really don't understand the nuance of it. You know what I'm saying? Can you break that down a little bit for those that don't know?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, one of my things that, one of the things that gets to me is how we don't get that things are structured, how things are structured. So when we're talking about the political framework, you got to understand that we must avoid what's called top-down politics. And what do I mean by top-down politics? Just kind of like how it is with top-down economics, what Reagan was trying to do. We think that we'll get something from the top, allow that trickle-down effect. But that's not what's going to happen, because that's not how things are politically structured. When you take a look at your states are set up to where the most powerful person is your governor. You have your governor, you have the lieutenant governor, you have the secretary of state, you have the attorney general. You elect some. I don't know all, but this is obviously depending on what state you're from, so you need to do your research. But we know in the vast majority of states, you may elect your county prosecutors, judges go up for election. This is the thing that I talk about. Where are these rappers and these artists and these people who claim to be, who have gotten popular in the conscious community? Where are they when it's time to vote locally? You can look at the numbers. If you take any politics 101 class, they'll let you know the numbers are somewhere in between the 40 and 50 percentile where individuals get involved in this country in national politics. But on the local level, you have less than 10% of individuals getting involved in local politics. So these, when you feel the brunt or the weight, the system against you, is because you haven't got involved, you haven't infiltrated. In 5 to 10 years, I think that, especially here in Michigan, we could have put together, a candidate and put support behind that candidate, or at least to the point where we could have put pressure on the incumbents or individuals who, we knew would gain success or has gained success in that field, so that they would have had to pay more attention to us. But when we relieve that responsibility to people in power, and then they force us to pay attention to only voting when it's time to elect a president, this is a situation that you find that you're in. You're in unique circumstances. If you're in Michigan, your circumstances are different than individuals in Florida or in California. So there's no way that you would have a president, while he's also being one who has to be on the international stage a lot, would have the time to take you into consideration. So that's why you have your governor and your lieutenant governor and your secretary of state and your etc. in order to take care of those things, and it's in your hands to put those people into office, but we don't.
Okay.
So that's kind of the gist of that, and that's one of the reasons why voting doesn't work. But that's a convenient truth, because like I said, once they got you paying attention to the president and only voting every 4 years for the president, and yet every 4 years your governor gets elected, your lieutenant governor gets elected, your secretary of state gets elected. Who's putting these people in office?
Got you. So that's powerful wisdom right there. So basically what you're saying is people should get together and start doing stuff locally.
Yeah, and see, now you got pessimists because they created the convenient truth. It may be a little bit too late now. Obviously, we know we're in the final stages of this. It's a little bit too late now, but they kept it going, did they not? They had us on that string for a while, and then every administration that came into play for 4 years, like, oh, Obama didn't do nothing, Clinton didn't do nothing, the Bushes didn't do nothing, Reagan didn't do nothing. Of course, they will continue to keep doing that, because it's about global domination. The plan was global. And you kept paying attention to, something that they have outgrown. They have outgrown this concept of, if we notice, and if you talk to people who are knowledgeable, they'll let you know that it's the same plan, maybe in different languages, different settings, and different environments, but they're following the same plan. It may appear to be as if it's unique in your town when they talk about emergency planning and, how they're setting the government up and how they're preparing for the pandemic and all of this, but in reality, this is something that a script that they find themselves participating in. So we got to understand that they're far beyond just isolating you and your needs right now. They're playing off of it in order to create that political intensity. But, you know, for the most part, what do we find ourselves seeing? We find ourselves seeing that, you know, these people have a global agenda. There's nothing, you know, small about them at this particular point in time. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
So top-down politics, they've a lot, you know, we fell into that trap for too long. Now it's all about, like I was saying before, about, you know, certain people. It's about
explain to the people what you mean by top-down politics.
Yeah, so like I said, top-down politics is when we expect for people, or politicians in particular, to do what? You know, to the benefits of you know, legislation working in our favor, the benefits of having lobbyists, all of that, you know, goes to people who already have power, and power that's already been in place for a very long time. So if we think that power will somehow find its way down to us in our communities, we're wrong, because we don't know how the system is set up, and we definitely are ignorant of how the financial institutions are set up. Because the vast majority of the money that is made, or the so-called money, let's just say currency, because it's not money, right? Now, this currency, you know, only stands because of what type of power? Because it's a fiat currency, because it's backed by military power. See, that's the confusion. See, a lot of people say, oh, well, yeah, you know, it's about the money. No, it's about the military. It don't matter, you know, how, you know, about your money if you don't have a military to enforce it. You know, so that goes back into us understanding in 1944, you had the Bretton Woods Conference, where what did they do? They you know, all the 44 nations came together and agreed to use the United States currency as trade. Right? So, you know, and then you had the United States Army being able to enforce that spending, right? And so the reality of it is that it is, you know, a group of individuals, people call it the oligarchy, the Illuminati, or, you know, the elite, whatever, who have understood that if I can get you to spend my money, you know, I don't care who makes your laws. I mean, we've heard that quote before, all right? And so, you know, if you think that they have your interest at heart with how they set up their system in order to monopolize and create, you know, powers that cannot be contested, then, you know, you don't, like I said, you're ignorant of the system. They know exactly what they're doing and have for a very long time, and understood that, look, the black market is way more important and has much more liquidity than what we see on the surface. You know, so when we look at the money that is being made on the surface, you know, America says, oh, we don't export anything, or we don't. No, you sell guns. You sell drugs and you sell guns. That's how you built this country. You sell guns and you sell drugs. And that's why I tell people all the time, that, so when people say, oh, you built it off of slaves, I was like, think about this. The narrative that we think about when we talk about slavery, we think about, you know, the whip and, you know, physical force. I guarantee you, just like how when you see pimps or you see drug dealers out there, the quickest way to make a slave is through drugs. It's through getting them addicted to drugs. And we think that the things that we go through now are recent developments. We say, oh, well, yeah, you know, crack in the 80s. Man, do you know every drug was legal? Before 1930, actually 1914, you had the Harrison Narcotics Act, which only taxed drugs. You see what I'm saying? And then in the 1930s, you had the Marijuana Act, okay, which only taxed marijuana. Okay. You see what I'm saying? So marijuana, so, you know, people are like, oh, marijuana's legal now, and, you know, these things are changing. It's been legal. They legalize it and make it illegal whenever they see fit, just like alcohol was illegal at one point in time.
So basically what you're saying is they legalize it just to throw black people in jail, or just to
create, anybody can be a criminal. Just like look how they do it with the Rona or the beer virus, right? You don't wear a mask, and, you know, we know it's going to graduate to different levels. To, you know, if you don't want to be a part of the crowd that's being vaccinated and participate in this herd immunity experiment, you know, then all of a sudden you're gonna end up being a criminal. It's easy to criminalize in an institution that prides itself on laws, because it understands that laws and words and you know, words come together to create spells. That's why they call it spelling. But we all know that. A lot of people think that sounds generic, but that's I encourage you to try to buy a Ouija board with no letters on it and see how you do. The whole point of letters, you know, is to bring about spells, and then depending upon that energy behind that, you know, it will determine what the conclusion may be. Just like how we see the power of symbols, like they talked about. A guy who was, prolific in talking about that was Joseph Campbell, when he talked about that you have to be cognizant of the environment that's created by symbols, the power behind symbols. And most people don't understand that. So the example that I always give is like the pentagram. It's different variations of this word that's used, like the pinnacle and all of this different stuff. But if you take a look at the pentagram, the 5-pointed star, just take a look at how the symbols or the power is manipulated. One being that if you have, say for instance, you're watching a movie and you see the pentagram, and then you see David, the name David under it. All of a sudden you associate that with what? The Jews, right? With Judaism, okay? And then now it has this
not to mean to cut your
nature
wisdom,
to it,
but
right?
I also want you to jump on that topic with the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Cannon had his problems where he was being attacked because he said some things. So I basically want you to go in on that, because it seemed like every time a person, especially a black man or whoever, jump on that topic, we basically get crucified for it. Why you think that is? Why don't you jump on that topic for a minute, brother?
Because they don't want you to get any closer to the truth. And, first off, a lot of us are not proficient in languages. So we don't understand, like even we were discussing earlier about languages, and we were saying that, just to go quickly on this, to touch quickly on it, it's like when you have them saying that someone is anti-Semitic, and that's a language, the Semitic language, whether you refer to it as Hamido-Semitic or Semito-Hamitic. It is a language, okay? And so Arabic is also considered a Semitic language, okay? So by them having the conflict that we know, which exists in the area of Palestine, no matter how you cut, slice, and dice it, the subjugation of a people that speak a Semitic language would be termed as anti-Semitic energy in that regard. So they can easily be seen as anti-Semitic, but they've been able to monopolize on that term. Anytime you hear anti-Semitic, you only think of them. And that's why when we talk about Hebrew and all of those different languages, which are Semite languages, they are just a branch of the language that we are talking about, called what? Afro-Asiatic.
Not a people.
Not a people, a language. Just like when the Latin people say, oh, we're Latin, you're not a language. Even though, unfortunately, we know that it's hard for humans to identify or to come to grips with who they are without taking their language into account. And I get that, because the language is what helps you to gain meaning or garner meaning, not just about you, but your surrounding environment too as well, right? And it helps you communicate, obviously, within self and with other people. So we know how important language is, but the failure of it is, and this is how they've been able to construct it, is that they have had people identify with language, as far as their identity is concerned. So you have somebody claiming that they're Latin, and you have the Latin languages. Oh, okay. Which would be what? You have Spanish, Portuguese, French, Italian.
Romance language.
Right. Romance language is what they typically refer to them as. And so these people, so when you have the Latin, when we talk about the argument that Tariq Nasheed, or the debate that Tariq Nasheed got into with a guy who claims to be of Latin descent, you're not of a language. These people did not speak this language when they came into contact with the Europeans. Okay, so that area, Central America, South America, they did not speak the Latin languages. All right, and we know this because also as well we know about a book that was written by Bartolomé de la Casa in 1522, which was talking about the destruction of the West Indies. Now in this book he detailed that 8 million people from the region called Hispaniola, which is modern day Haiti and the Dominican Republic, had passed away just off of contact with these Europeans due to this disease. This is what they're proficient in, biological and chemical warfare. Same thing when we talk about the Civil War. Everybody talks about a white man going to war, Europeans going to war, but what do we find out? That the Civil War was the deadliest war the European ever fought. Up until the Vietnam War, all his wars combined, World War I, World War II, the Korean War, in totality, did not amount to all of the losses he suffered in the Civil War fighting against himself. And the vast majority of those 600,000 individuals have passed away due to disease.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? And then also, to go even further, we talk about syphilis. Syphilis was called Buba, B-U-B-A disease, Buba disease. In the 1500s or the 16th century, they were well aware of their weapons. I just seen an article, it's this comedian called Schuler. and he had a video where it was talking about Alabama, and it said that the syphilis rates were on the rise. And you know, he's a comedian, so he's making jokes. Oh, you just need to strap up and all this. But what tripped me out, the irony was what? This was the site of the Tuskegee experiment where they gave African syphilis. See how we become the name or the face of something? HIV supposedly started with a monkey, but now it becomes the face of black people. Coronavirus, we know, started in China. But now it's the face of black. Oh, because you're immunocompromised. This is the deadly part of racism.
That's powerful.
When we talk about natural law dictates to me with the sun that I am a being who, you know, should be at the top of the playing field. You know, at the top when we talked about the order, the hierarchical structure. All right, natural order. Right? Because me and Cuz was talking about it early, that nature through color gives you order. If you go outside in the morning and the sky was red, you would think something was wrong. If you seen a pink elephant, you would have swore it was made in a lab. Nature gives you order through color.
That's powerful right there, brother.
It gives you color through order through color. And so when something is out of color, you think about it. They take all the color out of food, and then what? Replace the color. Red 40, yellow dye, yellow 9, red 9. And what is color? A form of light. We remember when we was discussing how when your baby is born, or even you go and you're being monitored, if they want to get an idea of the oxygen levels in your blood, they put you on what's called a pulse oximeter. Something that they put on your finger. We've all had this. And what do?
Yes.
They shoot a light through your blood. And they measure the light that comes back from your blood to determine the oxygen levels in your blood. You are a light being. You use electricity. What else? How much evidence do you want? You know what I'm saying? This is what we keep begging for, because like we said, when we redefine what we are, who you are is limitless.
That's powerful right there. One thing I can say is we coming for you, Si. We coming for all y'all niggas outside of the studio. You know what I'm saying? We coming for y'all. You know what I'm saying? We got a young, sharp mind in the building tonight. You know what I'm saying? He can touch on every level, every subject matter. You know, and we coming for you, Si. So, you know, just get ready for us, big baby.
You know.
But, so like you went over a couple topics there. Let's talk about our people for a minute. What do you think our people need to do economically to empower ourselves? You know, how can we break certain paradigms and certain traditions that we have to try to come together?
You have to have... It's something interesting that Dr. Francois Wilson said when she had a lecture. She said that, you know, when she had a patient, she had discovered that she said basically one of the things that they do in psychiatry to determine, you know, a person's mental state is orientation. You know, like say for instance something were to happen to you, or you know, whether it was in the form of an emotional experience, but usually let's use like a physical experience, traumatic experience, like you had an accident or something and you fell, right? And then you know, somebody around you as they tried to, you know, as they saw you recovering was like, okay, well, do you know where you at? How are you? You know, they'll try to orient you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And then so if they ask you, you know, what's your name, and you respond, you know, with another name, they automatically gonna know something's wrong, right? That indicates that something's wrong. And in greater respect, if we extrapolate on that in terms of something happening emotionally, people would dictate that as being an emotional or mental illness. If something was wrong, like a traumatic experience, like you were touched on or something like that, and you didn't deal with it, right? Or you couldn't really deal with reality, people would say that you had created or manifested a mental illness because of that, right? It's the same thing. It's like what we see ourselves doing is developing a mental illness because we don't understand what state that we're in, right? We're in a war state. You remember what we talked about, how Dr. Francois Wilson said, she's like, orient yourself, understand that you're at war. Like we talk about Dr. Umar trying to build schools, he should be trying to build an army. You're dealing with an individual who is diametrically opposed to your existence, everything about you. So even if it is done in a sense where, you know, people laugh at it or it's supposed to be seen as trivial, when somebody say that California got to make laws so that black people can wear their hair a certain way, this is when you know that a person, the institution hates everything about you. You see what I'm saying? This is not a moral issue because you're thinking about it in terms of viewing it through a societal construct, which is what? That it's a moral issue if blacks got better jobs or if they did this or if they did that. It's not a moral issue. This is an issue like Dr. Francis Walsey talked about in the ISIS papers, that this is an issue of genetic survival. If they are around an individual who can procreate with them and drown them out genetically, then I must do everything in my power to ensure that that doesn't happen. Even leaders of so-called, extreme right-wing organizations, or what people like to term as white supremacists, they even articulate to you, we're trying to keep our bloodline pure. What are they saying in other words? Any frat nation does what? They know when they go through the process, whether it was voluntary or involuntary. If there is a baby that comes out of that baby is born with color. That baby is born with color. It's interesting. I was watching a video. It's an actual festival which celebrates African heritage in South America, in Brazil specifically, and it's called Globaleza. Now, in 2014, it was this African chick. She was dark-skinned. She was the first dark-skinned chick to win, this pageant, and automatically Brazil, they threw her in the mud for it. Threw the whole event in the mud for it. They're like, look, we're only used to mulattoes being the face of this event, even though it's something that's supposed to represent African history. You see what I'm saying? And then they call it being, upgrading themselves, becoming lighter, because see, they want you to hate the melanin. We already know this. Has been plenty of our professors and scholars to always talk about the importance of melanin, but we don't understand it. Like we talked about, it's 18 atoms of that 34 atom melanin molecule is carbon. Okay? The importance of carbon. Carbon in your periodic table of elements that you learn in chemistry class is called the king of elements because it shares with everything. We are the very nature. Look how black people are. We know how important family is. We call somebody brother and we know that they're not even from our bloodline. We call somebody sister and they're not even from our bloodline. Because we know we have a connection to one another. We actually become, or we are the living examples of, or this actual God-like molecule living out its experience through us. That's what's important for our understanding. So they understand that since they can't partake in that level of existence, then they had to manufacture one, or a matrix, if you will, in order to do so. But it only runs off of the fuel that we give it, which is our inability to discern that we are the true people. We are the ones who, make sure that this so-called reality stays intact. We understand that from, our thoughts that of cultural expropriation, when we have people who take from us. And we know for a fact it is through cultural through cultural transmission that humanity is able to evolve, or what they also term as cross-culturalization, the exchanging of ideas. See, because we know that that's how things grow. It's through trade, and we can't be thinking that trade is always about physical trade. It is the trade-off of ideas. White folks refer to this in their law called intellectual property. And they will throw you in jail for it. You know what I'm saying? So it was this one saying, whereas there's something more powerful than all the armies in the world, and that's an idea whose time has come. I believe it was Voltaire or something like that. But that's a very powerful statement.
That's a very powerful statement, brother.
Saying, bro?
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna close this. If you want to give a shout out, give a shout out to, whoever, that's out there in the world.
Obviously, to all black people out there, it's not, arrogant, or, don't see it as, some godlike complex when you begin to become aware of what you are. So then you can define who you are. Because if they define what you are, being a human being, then who you are doesn't matter. Christian, Muslim, all that doesn't matter. Because now you're within that realm, or you're within that conceptual framework. And then all roads lead to their destination. But if you redefine yourself and be like, okay, I'm a light being. I know that I operate off light. I know that my body operates off electricity. I know that I have this connection with light. The pineal gland being directly behind the eyes. And we can be able to use it and cut it on anytime time that we close our eyes. That's why they talk about the importance of meditation, because then you shutting off light. As soon as you shut off that light, you send this signal through the retinal hypothalamus tract, and then what happens is that the pineal gland begins to secrete melatonin. And now you can kick off the light inside the body. How it is that you think that you see when your eyes is closed when you drink? You're full of light.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? So this is what we got to understand. We have to reframe what we are, redefine ourselves, and then we'll be ready for the battle. Because I'm going to tell you, we knew that our people knew it was to take supernatural weapons. We're not going to defeat them with the weapons. Even though you see your boy, we stay strapped up, you know. But what does that do? That's not, we can't beat them on that level. They are, you know, when it comes to their war weapons, man, they excel. So we got to dig deeper than that. But yeah, this your boy, Hey Rue Heinous. Shouts out to the FOF Squad. We doing it 2020.
You want to also tell them what channel?
Oh yeah, you know, go to your boy channel, Hey Rue Heinous. You know, we obviously are in this is, you know, the channel is in its infancy. You know, we got a little over 500 subscribers, almost 600. But we're gonna continue to build. You know, I try to upload as many videos as I can, but as you've seen, it's been, man, it's been a crazy year. So,
and also, when you want to view this one, go to LJ Entertainment.
Yes, sir. LJ Entertainment. So boy, that's another, you know. All the cats from the FOF Squad, you know, we do what we do. You know, we're gonna be trying to pick up the intensity because, hey, like we said, I mean, it's been taken to another level. And a lot of people say we may have heard this or heard that, and we may have heard it all, but I swear you haven't. You know, we're here to redefine or basically deconstruct and then create a new paradigm. All right, and not just a way. You know, that's where a foundation of thinking rests on. So not just a way of thinking we're trying to change, we're trying to change the foundation of which thinking rests on. So that's what we're here to do, FOF Squad. Facts over feelings. It's your boy, Hey Rue Heinous. We out.